The Russian troops' victorious offensive continues in all key directions of the front. Unfortunately for the Ukrainian Army and NATO forces, the Russian Army's assault units have achieved another major success on the battlefield over the past 24 hours. In particular, a few minutes ago, the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation officially announced that the units of the group of troops under the designation center had liberated the settlement of Peschanoye, southwest of Pokrovsk. Commenting on the liberation of Peschanoye, war correspondents noted that the Ukrainian High Military Command had concentrated significant forces in this settlement. However, even despite this, the Ukrainian army units had to flee from Peschanoye under the onslaught of Russian troops. My dear truth seekers, let me remind you that the day before, the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation also officially announced the liberation of the settlement of Shevchenko, south of Pokrovsk. Currently, units of the Russian army continue to increase the cover of the city of Pokrovsk from both the western and eastern sides. The Russian army is also continuing its successful offensive in Chasiv Yar direction of the front. In particular, war correspondents have reported that Russian troops have seized nearly all northern districts of Chasiv Yar, encompassing the refractory plant, a critical asset for the city's defense. At the same time, it is worth noting that this refractory plant was the most powerful fortified area of the Ukrainian army in Chasiv Yar. At the moment, in the remaining northern districts of the city, Russian troops are gradually displacing the Ukrainian army units from their positions in residential areas. It is reported that the Ukrainian High Military Command is desperately trying to rectify the situation by transferring reserves from Konstantinovka to Chasiv Yar. However, the Ukrainian soldiers and foreign mercenaries arriving in the city can no longer affect the course of hostilities. Moreover, on January 13, at 3 p.m. Moscow time, Russian sources reported that on the territory of the Novyi microdistrict and the Ognyaporets children's camp, Russian paratroopers managed to encircle a fairly large group of Ukrainian soldiers and foreign mercenaries. It is reported that these are mostly Polish, Italian, and Colombian citizens. The Ukrainian army and the so-called foreign mercenaries also continue to retreat rapidly in Toretsk direction of the front. In particular, on January 13, many Western think tanks, including experts from open-source intelligence, admitted that the city of Toretsk was almost completely liberated by Russian troops. According to them, the northern outskirts of the city also came under the control of the Russian army. In particular, we are talking about the Fomica microdistrict. At the same time, Western experts admit that the loss of the city of Toretsk will be a real disaster for the Ukrainian groups in Chasiv Yar and Konstantinovka. In general, reading the articles of Western analysts and watching interviews with Western experts, I noticed that even such Russophobic and biased analytical centers such as the Institute for the Study of War recognize the catastrophic situation of the Ukrainian army in all key directions of the front, including the Kursk region. Moreover, on January 12, Donald Trump's national security advisor Michael Waltz actually officially acknowledged Ukraine's defeat in this war. In particular, during an interview with American journalists, Michael Waltz officially stated that U.S. President Donald Trump recognized that Ukraine would never be able to regain the lost territories. Moreover, this senior American official also stated that all Western leaders agreed with Donald Trump that it is impossible to take away from Russia former Ukrainian territories, even with the help of military force. Thus, Michael Waltz officially recognized the defeat of not only Kiev, but also the West in this confrontation with Moscow. This statement by Michael Waltz caused a real shock in Zelensky's office. In particular, insiders said that Volodymyr Zelensky's psychological state once again deteriorated sharply. It is reported that his personal psychiatrist is constantly with him, to prevent another nervous breakdown of the head of the Kiev regime. At the same time, the Ukrainian Telegram channels also added fuel to the fire. In particular, they said that if the war ends without the return of the lost Ukrainian territories, Volodymyr Zelensky will have to explain for what hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian soldiers died. Especially considering that Volodymyr Zelensky could have ended this war back in 2022, when Putin invited him to recognize Crimea as Russian territory and refused to join NATO. However, after meeting with British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, Volodymyr Zelensky rejected all of Putin's proposals and decided to fight with Russia. As a result, Ukraine lost more than 1 million soldiers killed and wounded. In addition, Ukraine also lost Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson regions. At the same time, Ukraine's territorial losses rapidly gain momentum with each passing day. Military experts are confident that after the liberation of Pokrovsk, Russian troops will move the fighting to the territory of the Dnipropetrovsk region, and even liberate the city of Pavlograd by the summer of this year. On January 13, Deputy Head of the Security Council of the Russian Federation Dmitry Medvedev made a statement that also shocked the head of the Kiev regime. In particular, he said that after Russia rejected the Cyprus and Korean scenarios for solving the Ukrainian issue, the West offered Moscow to divide Ukraine according to the German scenario. At the same time, Dmitry Medvedev stressed that Moscow could agree to such a scenario, but only on condition that Kiev voluntarily gives Moscow all the remaining Russian-speaking regions. Thus, the deputy head of the Security Council of the Russian Federation once again made it clear to the Kiev regime and its masters in the West that this war would end only when the West and its puppets in Kiev accepted all of Moscow's conditions and voluntarily give Putin historically Russian lands. Otherwise, a state like Ukraine will simply cease to exist.